The year was 1897 and Sebastian Spering Kresge was a traveling salesman at the time. He met a variety store pioneer in Frank Winfield Woolworth. That year Kresge would invest roughly $7,000 that he had saved from his job into a 5 and dime store, which was a term given to stores that sold a variety of inexpensive household and personal goods, usually priced anywhere from 5 to 10 cents. His first store was opened in Memphis, Tennessee, and this would ultimately lead to the founding of Kmart.
I know a place.
I know a place.
Where life is good.
Where life is good.
A brand new place.
A brand new place.
In your neighborhood.
Your neighborhood.
Come to my place.
Where dreams come true.
My saving place can save a lot of dollars for you.
My saving place. Kmart.
Kmart.
Is your saving
Yes, it is.
You need value face to face.
Every day.
Kmart.
Kmart.
Sells great merchandise.
You're gonna get value at a low, low price.
Kresge jointly owned the first store with a former customer, John McRory. Kresge and McRory added a second store just a year later in downtown Detroit. After 2 years, McRory was given Kresge's share of the Detroit store as well as $3,000, so that McRory would have full ownership of the Detroit store. Then Kresge and Wilson Company was formed, with Charles J. Wilson, Kresge's brother-in-law. By the year 1912, the company would have 85 stores in Delaware, and in 1916 they expanded out to Michigan. And this is where the modern-day Kmart stores would begin. They began limiting pricing in their stores to keep it as a discounted retailer. They would limit all stores' pricing to $1 and had 597 stores by 1929. The Great Depression of the US hurt profits for a period, but they ended 1940 with 682 operational stores. In the 1960s, the company was under the new leadership of Harry Cunningham. S.S Kresge opened the first Kmart named store on March 1st, 1962 in Garden City, Michigan. This was 4 months before a new discount chain named Walmart opened their first store. 18 Kmart stores opened that first year of the Kmart rebranding. Kmart also launched Kmart Foods during that decade, which were Kmart branded supermarkets. The chain would continue to open Kmart locations despite the corporate name remaining S.S Kresge Company. The company founder, Sebastian Spering Kresge, died of a heart attack on October 18, 1966. Following Kresge's death, some of the poorly performing S.S Kresge stores were converted to a new name called Jupiter Discount Stores, and it seems that these were not as popular as Kmart stores, considering that they no longer exist today. But regardless, Kmart began putting a number of competing retailers out of business with its massive Kmart expansion. Kmart contributed to the fall of chains like Zayre, Ames, Bradley's, Caldor and Hills, as well as smaller competition like Kresge's former business partner, McRory Stores.
Each month, Kmart's competitors are visited by some Kmart employees. We quietly take notes, subtly compare prices. Over 1,000 prices a month in stores across Canada. In those rare cases when we find a lower price than Kmart's, here's a lower price. We make sure it isn't lower for long. Why do we go to so much trouble to prove nobody sells for less than Kmart? Simple. When you call yourself Canada's saving place, you've got a lot to live up to.
In 1977, S.S Kresge officially changed its name to Kmart Corporation, and so began the conversion of its remaining S.S Kresge stores to Kmart locations. A new vice chairman for the company began as CEO of Kmart in the 1980s. His name was Bernard M. Fowler. The very next year, Kmart's enormous growth continued as their 2,000th store opened. By the end of 1981, Kmart totaled 2,055 stores across the United States, Canada, and Puerto Rico. By the end of the 1980s, Kmart Corporation sold its remaining 76 Kresge and Jupiter stores in the United States to McRory stores, and the brands were mostly discontinued at that point, although Kresge and Jupiter Canadian stores lasted longer, roughly until 1994. Up until November of 1990, Kmart was the second largest retailer in the United States, but they were surpassed by Walmart as the second largest. The largest US retailer at the time was Sears, ironically enough. Something I didn't actually know is that in 1980, Kmart owned or acquired stores like Sports Authority, Builder Square, and Walden Books, but after falling to now the third largest retailer in the country, they shifted all their focus to Kmart stores. Kmart was looking to rebuild the brand and give it a fresh new image for the 1990s. In an effort to modernize their image, Kmart introduced a new logo which dropped the outdated italic K with blue-colored Mart in favor of a red block letter K with the word Mart written in script inside the K. With this new logo came the restructuring of the retail stores themselves. It began seeming a lot more like Walmart. Around this time, they even introduced Kmart Supercenters to compete with Walmart Supercenters. Kmart Superstores began to expand, but the stores were later renamed to Big Kmart Stores and later again to Super Kmart Stores. These stores seemed to be fairly successful as they opened roughly 30 new stores by the 2000s, and they had 150 stores converted from regular Kmart stores to Super or Big Kmart stores. It seemed everything was okay with the company, but Kmart's decline began in the year 2000. In July of that year, they closed 72 underperforming stores because of poor sales. They also announced plans for yet another major restructuring for the company, in which Kmart would invest heavily in modernizing things like checkout and inventory management technology. But this clearly wasn't enough for the chain, as they filed for bankruptcy in January of 2002. This halted a lot of the planned restructuring and renovations to Kmart stores, as well as halting the planned expansion for more Super Kmart stores. Stores in the process of being built were all halted, regardless of how close to completion they were. This was not at all a good sign for the company. The form of bankruptcy that Kmart pursued was Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which allows companies to attempt a restructure and come up with a new plan to pay off their debts over time. The bankruptcy was led by Charles Conaway, who was the chairman of the company, and president of the chain, Mark Schwartz. But scandal came quickly as Conaway and Schwartz were both accused of misleading their shareholders in the company. They were allegedly spending shareholder funds on airplanes, houses, boats, and other luxuries. Conaway actually took full blame for this financial disaster for the company. As the reconstruction of the company kicked off, this scandal and admission of predatory misuse of funds forced the company to pay back all of its loans right away. The company was right back where it began, in the beginning of the bankruptcy. Kmart began rapidly closing down locations. Over 300 stores were closed, including every store in Alaska, and this laid off 34,000 workers. Apparently, this was all part of the restructuring plan. They attempted a new layout and a new look for late 2002, and 5 prototype stores were built. 1 was in Michigan and 4 were in Illinois. The new stores featured a new green and gray logo, as well as a more friendly layout and wider aisles to walk around. And they also featured the name of the city that they were located in throughout the store. It seemed that they were going for a more friendly shopping experience and trying to have people associate the chain with the place that they live. It's said that these stores were fairly successful, but the company unfortunately could not afford a bigger rollout. This store concept was eventually scrapped for a new Kmart Orange concept. Kmart's bankruptcy was subsidized a bit in the mid-2000s when ESL Investments, a hedge fund, purchased the Kmart debt in an attempt to accelerate the bankruptcy process. On January 13, 2003, Kmart closed 326 underperforming stores due to lack of profits and lack of sales. The company continued and survived the bankruptcy, with ESL now owning 53% of the company, and then they later changed the name to Kmart Holding Corporation. On November 17, 2004, Kmart's management announced it would buy Sears for $11 billion. This was led by Edward S. Lambert, who was the company's largest shareholder. As part of the merger, Kmart Holding Corporation would be transferred to the new Sears Holdings Corporation. They planned to operate stores under both Sears and Kmart's names. Kmart again changed their logo to try to give a modern look to the near-dead brand. Around this time, Kmart's orange prototype began. This store prototype changed the typical blue and white interior to orange and brown colors. It also lowered shelf heights for better sight lines, and they also featured appliance departments with Sears Kenmore appliances, as well as hardware departments featuring Craftsman tools, also from Sears. Some of the abandoned Kmart auto centers were also converted into Sears auto centers. In the modern day, Kmart and Sears have been on a steady decline, and their company Sears Holdings Corporation has now filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and it looks like they will suffer a similar fall to previous retail juggernauts. With immense competition from Walmart, who is now the country's largest physical retailer, and Amazon, the largest online retailer, it seems that there may not be any room left for Kmart or Sears. It started with the huge pressure of not being able to keep up with Walmart's prices, and that was originally Kmart's market and the reason for their long success as the face of discount retail. But ultimately, it seems that a combination of Walmart and the predatory shareholders who misused stores used company funds led to the fall of Kmart, and similarly Sears. Now that's not all the blame. These stores didn't stay current and with the times, and we know from brands like Target that prices being low aren't the only factor. Having an efficient and pleasant shopping experience, in my opinion, is equally as important. Both Sears and Kmart suffered from this. Kmart and Sears were both faces of retail and remnants of the retail chain boom of the 1960s and 70s. Kmart dominated in discounted retail and was at the time the second largest US retailer, trailing only one company in Sears, who was at the time the largest retailer in the country. These two competitors, as of now, seem to be towards the end of their dominance, and for that matter, their existence. Not even the once top two US retailers can compete with Walmart and Amazon, and although their futures aren't certain, it's definitely not looking good and not looking like they will be around much longer.
Kmart is your savings store, where your dollar buys you more.
Coming up to Christmas, the smartest families do their shopping at Kmart. The easy-to-use and easy-to-give Braun hand blender at $23. Just in time for the holidays, a dinnerware set for only $15.97. Clean up with a Bissell carpet cleaning machine for only $147. We've lowered the price on the best seat in the house, now just $13.97. Kmart, the quality you need, the price you want.
What's happening every week, all spring at Kmart? The Kmart Spring Break. Everywhere you look, as long as you look in Kmart, you'll find breaks on everything you need. This week, get a break on jeans for the whole family. Buy one pair and get another at half price.
What a break!
For hundreds of great price breaks all spring, check out the Kmart Circular every week.
At Kmart, our blue lights lower prices every day. Get down to Kmart for low prices. That's blue light always.